We will continue our work in Lesson 2 of identifying rational numbers between two rational numbers by looking at some fractions. So example 1 wants us to write two rational numbers between 3/8 and 3/4. What we'll do whenever we have fractions is we'll start by finding a common denominator. Now, a common denominator here between 8 and 4 is 8. So 3/8 does not need to be multiplied by anything, but 3/4 needs to be multiplied by 2/2 to give us 6/8. So we now have 3/8 and 6/8. So we're able to now write two rational numbers in between those two given fractions there, which are 4/8 and 5/8. Now, whenever we work with fractions, we always need to make sure our fractions are reduced. Let's make a little note of that so you can remember to reduce your fractions. 4/8 can be reduced to 1/2 by dividing the numerator and denominator by 4. And 5/8 can't be reduced. So we'll just leave that as is. Now, when we looked at decimals in the last video, we learned that there were an infinite number of rational numbers between any two given decimals. Well, the same applies for fractions. Between 3/8 and 3/4, there's an infinite number of fractions. This is just one process to find two such fractions. Now here we have two negative fractions. So we can start by finding a common denominator between 5 and 6, which is 30. So we'll multiply the first fraction by 5/5. Multiply the second fraction by 6/6. Now it's going to be hard to find a fraction in between -5/30 and -6/30. So what we need to do in a case like this is find equivalent fractions. Now, equivalent fractions can be found by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Multiplied by 2/2, 3/3, 10/10, and so on. So I'm going to multiply each one of those fractions by 2/2. -5/30 times 2/2, -10/60. And do the same for -6/30, -12/60. Now, between these two fractions here, I can find a fraction in between, -11/60, but I can only find one. The question did want me to find two fractions in between. So we can find another fraction by finding more equivalent fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 2/2 again. So -10/60 times 2/2 will give me -20/120. And then I'll get -24/120. So now you see I'm able to identify some numbers in between. I can write -21/120, -22, or even -23. But I'm only asked to list two numbers. So I'm going to say -21/120 and -22/120. Now, each of these fractions can be simplified. The first fraction can be divided by 3 to give us -7/40. And the second fraction can be divided by 2. So that's -11/60.